So the debate about free speech in America has once again been lit on fire because of the murder of Charlie Kirk. Of course, now the right and the government are going to obviously grasp towards clamping down on speech, which they actually always do. When things start getting out of hand, it's kind of like, you know, the governments all over the world. Here in Germany, it's the same. In America, it's the same. Even under Trump, it's kind of the same. They kind of treat the public like children, and that they're the parents. Like, that's how they treat us, right? And when brothers and sisters get into a big screaming match, and it gets to the point where one is hitting the other over the head with a bat or a fucking table leg or throwing a dish at him, then the parents automatically, basically what they then do is they try to shut down the situation, which means now not only the kid that's at fault of starting the argument or starting the fight or starting the hitting gets put in timeout. No, now everybody has to shut up, and now you're all in timeout. As unfair as that is, but that's their automatic first go-to reaction most of the time. Everybody shut up. Nobody says another thing. I don't care who's right. I don't care who's wrong. I just want you guys to shut up. And that's going to be the government's go-to thing in the case of Charlie Kirk. They understand, trust me, right? They understand that we're in like a fine line situation. They understand that this could blow up. If they do nothing, you know what I'm saying? This shit is going to blow up in a big way, because if the right, and I count all of us that are on the camp of reason, reality, normalcy, all of the people that used to be in the middle are now classified on the right, and the left is the ones that have done that, right? The left have demonized everybody that does not follow their ideology, and it is an ideology. And when I say the left, I'm talking about the woke left. I'm not talking about liberals, because those people are not liberals, right? We're liberals. The people that were in the middle are liberals, right? They're not. They're not for freedom. They're not for freedom of speech. They're for moral policing. And basically that goes to everybody that doesn't agree with them is fucking Hitler. And they're still spewing that same shit, even after Charlie Kirk's murder, right? So when I say the left, I mean the woke left radical lunatics that believe men can become women, and rapists should go into women's prisons, and little kids can get their dicks cut off in the name of trans ideology, and they believe that, you know, killing Charlie Kirk is okay. You know what I mean? Those people they're part of an ideology, right? And the government should go after them, right? They're the ones that caused this shit. They're the ones that are not backing down. They're not backing off. They are goading us into a fight. And if the government doesn't do anything, and the right feels like even under Donald Trump, the government does not have their back, their only alternative will be to fight these people off themselves, vigilante style, kind of like the left is doing now. And look, you already heard Pam Bondi out there talking about hate speech and blah, blah, blah. And look, I'm not one that believes in this hate speech bullshit, right? I just don't. I don't. But like I said in the past couple of videos, ever since the Charlie Kirk murder, but I do think that the only way to stop these people is to give them a full mouth of their own medicine. And the public in America is already kind of starting to do that in the way that they can without violence. And that is, they're reversing the cancel culture onto the left. That means if you talk shit about Charlie Kirk online, right, and you relativize his death or celebrate it, then we're going to call your work, we're going to send them the video, and you're going to get your ass fired and your livelihood taken away. Why the fuck should I care at all about those people? Those are the people that would have gladly turns you in for being unvaccinated or supporting Donald Trump or any minor infraction, you know what I mean, of that, you know, that goes against their ideology, they would have had you jailed, they would have had you fired, they would have had you taken off the internet. They were all fine with all that shit. And the reason they keep doing it is they have never been punished. They've never had to live under the consequences of their own tyranny. And the only way to fight something like that, in my opinion, is to make them live under the consequences of their own tyranny. A taste of their own medicine, fire with fire, etc., etc. And so, if the government goes after their free speech, I don't care, right? I think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's dangerous because, yeah, if we are giving the government more power over something that is basically a basic right, which is freedom of speech in America, and we're giving them the power to decide what is hate speech, what is true, what is free speech, you know, that's a dangerous thing that we're in. But look, to be honest, we've already been there. Because under Joe Biden and under any leftist government or any government that has leftist influence, people are already being censored and they are already deciding what's hate speech, what's not, what's truth and what's not. Here in Europe, for sure. That's already being decided by officials in government. It's just only been used against our side all of these years. And so now, if it's used against the other side, I don't really care, right? I don't give a fuck. Go for it. I will just ignore it. I'll turn a blind eye to it, I guess you could say. Like, well, you know, too bad. Which is the same reaction I will have if a prominent leftist YouTuber like Destiny or whatever gets killed. Am I really going to care? No, I'm not. I'm not. One, because I don't know the guy. Two, because he clearly does not care at all if anybody from our side gets taken out, right? And what I hear some conservatives and shit talking about is like, well, and that's always been the Republican and conservative mistake. We can't be them. We can't be them. We have to condemn their shit, and we can't be them. And look, I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry. One thing Destiny said that is true is if somebody is intent on fighting, there's not much you can do except fight or run. Right? If somebody wants to kill you and they're saying, look, dude, I'm on my way. I'm going to kill you. And you say, well, let's talk about this. And they say, click, click. There's no talking. What are you going to do? You're going to just let yourself get shot? Or you're going to fight or run? So the left woke, the ideological left woke, have brought this fight to our doorstep. And what the right is doing now is basically looking to Trump's administration for them to come up with a solution. And, you know, they're going to have to come up with a solution. Because if they don't, then people are going to start taking that solution into their own hands. Because the woke left really is an existential threat to your freedoms, in some cases to your life, depending on who you are. And they are not, and they're also not the majority. And we're letting ourselves be tyrannized by a minority of insane, overgrown adolescents that let their emotions make every decision for them, and their group guide every path they take. They're automatons. They don't think for themselves. It's like I said, it's an ideology. It's a groupthink ideology. And it's dangerous. Any ideology is dangerous if it gets power. And they've been in power, and we've let them stay in power. And now they've crossed a line, and their mask is slipping. And yes, the government is expected to do something about it. And what we don't expect is that we on this side are swept up in that shit that they do to do something about it. But so yes, I'm worried that giving the Trump administration or any administration the power to decide what is hate speech, I'm worried that will in the end lead to, of course, because they're already using it on Israel criticism. So I'm a hate speech guy because I don't appreciate at all what the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people, and I really don't care what happened to them in the past and all this other shit. I don't find those good enough reasons to eradicate a whole population of innocent people in the name of killing a terrorist organization. I don't agree with that, right? But the Trump administration finds that anti-Semitic. I don't agree with that. But they're already using speech against the middle, right? They're already using speech against the people on my side, against the right, against the people that are classified as right these days. You know what I mean? And so I don't agree with that at all, right? But they're already doing it. And so now if they decide to also crack down on woke leftists and take away their speech and silence them and get them fired or arrest them if they can, basically go after them in every way possible, which is necessary. One thing that was said, I forgot who said it, maybe J.D. Vance, but they were talking about the NGOs. Look, it is time for the people in power that have the levers of power in government. It is time for them to take away the left's power at every single turn. And I don't really care how they do it. So go after all the NGOs. Shut those fuckers down. You know what I'm saying? Don't get caught up in bullshit, semantic legal battles. Don't get into any more discussions with these people. Don't try to justify it. Just fucking do it. We need the governments that are on our side all over the world. Because look, guys, this is not just an American problem. Here in Germany, it's the same shit, right? The left, woke left, are here in Germany, in the media, in the institutions, at the colleges. They're in the politics. They're in the positions of power. And they are also the ones out there relativizing or celebrating the killing of Charlie Kirk on the news. Our media presenters are doing it every day. You know, so this leftist ideology, this woke leftist ideology is rampant everywhere across the Western world. And it needs to be taken out. And if you're going to only do that, if you're going to try to do that by only playing by every single democratic rule that there is, while they are wiping their asses with every rule that there is, and been getting away with it over and over again, we are going to lose that fight. So if we want the government to solve the problem, let's see, how do you say this? If we want the government to solve the problem so that we are not forced to, because if we're eventually forced to solve this problem on the ground level alone, then it's going to get out of hand, right? Then the real far right is going to come. And they're going to come to our aid, right? And, you know, we're going to have, like, moral problems with it, but we're probably going to let it happen. So the government has to do something, right? They have to do something. And to be realistic, I'm willing to give them a little leeway, right? I'm willing to give them a little leeway. If I can't criticize Israel, right? Let's say I was given the option. Let's say Donald Trump called me up and said, all right, dude, in order to kind of make this look fair, we're going to have to also clamp down on those people that negatively criticize Israel if we want to go after the people that are on the woke left, right? Now, can you stop criticizing Israel in your videos for a while so that we can do that? I'd be like, yeah. I'll give up a little bit of my free speech in order to crush the woke left. That I will do. Right? Because, look, the alternative is that they continue this nonsense, right? And so, and eventually get power again in countries like America. That would be a disaster. Because then they're going to go full bore on us, for sure. They're going to anyway. So we have to make sure they don't ever get any more power. And that means Donald Trump's administration, the only administration that is truly fighting it all over the Western world, right? They really are going to try and do something. And all these other, in my country, they're not fighting it at all. The politicians are all for it. They love it. They love being part of the woke left. Even if they claim to be on the right or conservative, they're part of the woke left. And we have to get rid of this ideology, right? And I don't mean ethnic cleanse them or eradicate them or kill them all. No. They have to be banished back into their private houses. And if they can believe and worship the God of transness all they want in their house, they just can't have any political power, right? No political power for these people. They can think whatever they want, but if they have political power, that's a problem. That's why I don't want religious zealots in power, right? Even Christian zealots. I don't. You see it already at the Trump administration. There are people in the administration that are big religious fanatics, and they are already trying to force Bibles into schools again, and they would have abortion outlawed completely, which I don't agree with all that shit. They want crosses back in schools. They want children to be taking religious schooling, whether they're religious or not. They want to cram their ideology down on everybody else. I don't agree with that. I think an ideology should have no political power over other people at all. It doesn't matter which one, they're all equally dangerous. That's why this woke leftism shit has to be taken out of power. And if we want Trump's government to do it, we're going to have to give him kind of the leeway they're going to need. If we jump up at every turn then and say, well, but their rights and freedoms and blah, blah. Look, I get the temptation. I never thought I would be saying this. Well, you know what I mean? Really, to be honest, I never thought I'd be saying, yeah, I'm cool with taking away some of these people's rights and freedoms. Because what else are you going to do? You're going to just let it go and just hope they never get power again, and then hope they don't lash out against everybody on the right that used to be in the middle, every right-wing podcaster, every middle-of-the-road podcaster, every ex-liberal, you know what I mean? They're going to go after fucking everybody. They already did in America. Look, they jailed the president, right? Right? They tried to have him jailed. I mean, okay, they mugshotted him. They mugshotted the president. They arrested the president. Now, he wasn't president at the time, but it's also never happened before that an ex-president has gotten rolled up, even though many of them probably should have been. They tried everything they could to take the guy out. From cooing him with Russiagate, lying about everything. The media was complicit in everything. They took out people that worked for him. They went after the lawyers. Steve Bannon had to go to jail. Some other dude had to go. Roger Stone was in jail. They did it. They went after parents at school board meetings. They tried to basically get everybody that wouldn't vaccinate themselves out of polite society. They did it already. And if you don't think they're going to do it again, you've got another thing coming. So would I rather give up some rights now to avoid that future? Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. Now, I hope that the government is going to treat this problem like it really is, that it is the woke left. It's not us. So please make that distinguishment when you're rolling up people for hate speech, all right? But they probably won't, though. You know what I'm saying? They might. I hope they do. And yeah, it's going to be unfair, and they're going to be like second-class citizens, but that's just too bad. They have pushed it too far. And we know what they're capable of, and we know what they're going to do if they get power again. They have to be taken away from power at all costs, people. Okay? And The only way to do that is to use political power and the government to make that happen. The only way the citizens can do it is by force, because by walking over and telling them you stop it, that's not going to do it. And so you can't leave this up to the public, right? You can't. And so the government's going to have to do something. They should go after all the NGOs. Doesn't matter if there's then babies in Nigeria. Fuck that, dude. Fuck that shit. I'm sorry. That's not our problem. That's their government's problem, right? And so all the NGOs have to be completely stripped, top to bottom. They got to do everything they can to to take out the NGOs, right? The Soros Foundation, all that shit. They got to go. They got to go after them. And yes, go after the universities. Oh, but you can't force the universities to teach the curriculum you want. Bull fucking shit. If they're getting taxpayer money, you can force them to do whatever the fuck you want. All right? So go after the university. That's where the cesspool starts, is in the universities. They've got to be tamped down. This crazy ideology, dude, this kid that shot fucking Charlie Kirk was basically a Republican. He grew up in a Republican household. His dad is MAGA. He's a cop. They love guns. And just a short time in this university, and he's sucking a trans guy's dick and killing Charlie Kirk. And now he's completely on the left. He hates his own parents. Dude, the colleges, the universities are an ideological training ground for this wokeness bullshit. And that has to be stopped. So do I hope the government won't go too far and take away everybody's speech rights and, even stop curriculum and stop teachings of things that are very important for people to learn, stop the criticizing of Israel, that's not it. Do I hope that they don't overdo it, that they don't go overboard? Yes, I hope they don't. I hope they don't. And if they do, we can fight for that when we come to it. Right? If they start going after everybody's speech rights, and they start doing things that we are like, wow, dude, that's crazy and totally unfair and totally crazy, we can fight for those things when we come to that bridge. Right? But people, sitting on our hands and being like the Republicans and say, well, we can't do that because we're not like them. We can't. No. That's not going to be an option. Because that option only makes it that these people are once again going to take power, or will get power in some way, or they will hijack people to get power for them and hide behind them, like they did with the Biden administration and also would have done with Kamala Harris. You know what I mean? So they must be taken out. And I don't mean with a gun. I don't mean with violence. But the only people that are in a position to take them out without violence, or with the least amount of violence, or with sanctioned violence, is the government. And so the government is now in a position that they're going to have to act in some way. And yes, they're going to immediately they're going to try to hit the lowest hanging fruit first. Freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. Let's hope they don't overdo it, but they're going to have to do something. And right at this point, anything that damages the woke left and doesn't damage me or my side too much, I'm all right with it. These people are dangerous, and their supporters are just as dangerous, right? Because I know people are going to say, but look, the regular middle of the road Democrats are going to get caught up in this shit. Yeah, maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe. But look, if they're out there supporting this ideology in any way, then they're part of that problem, right? They're part of that problem. And so if they get caught up, they could keep their head down, shut the fuck up, get on the right side of history. They could do all those things in order to avoid that. If they don't want to do those things, if they're not worried, or if they are worried but, feel like, hey, look, I'm so ideologically married to whatever position, and they want to stay there as a Democrat supporting the woke left, then by all means. But if that means they get caught up in the crackdown, too fucking bad. Too fucking bad. The situation is so dire that even me, a free speech absolutist basically, even me, I am willing to give up a little speech rights to shut these fucking people down. That's how serious I see this situation. That's how bad I see the situation becoming if the woke left get into power again in America. Because we're still struggling with it here in Germany, but America being led under Trump right now is slowing them down. And thank God it's slowing them down. And so I don't want them to regain momentum, people. I really don't. They are a dangerous mob of ideological zealots that lead their whole lives through emotion only. There is no rationale. There is no talking to them. There is no reasoning with these people. We've tried this for decades. We've allowed them to get away with their shit for decades. We've appeased them. We've tried to protect them. We've done everything we can to try to integrate this woke leftist nonsense into our regular worldview. And it just is not going to cut it, people. It's just not going to fucking work. You know what I mean? It's just not going to work. I mean, it isn't. It obviously isn't, because if it would be, then after the killing of Charlie Kirk, most of these people would not be, out there cheering for his death. That would have, for any regular thinking person, something like that happening makes you go, whoa, we need to chill this the fuck out. That's why you hear that so much. We need to turn down the temperature. Yeah, it's too late for that shit. It's too late for that shit. What we need to do is turn the temperature up on these leftist wokesters. That's what we need to do. Temperature up to full blast. We need to get up there and fucking take this ideology out. And I never thought I was going to be the one like preaching for something like this or giving the government extra power or whatever. No. You know what I mean? No. But in this case, this is the exception. Right? This is the exception. Because it is existential. We really... Do you know how the left, the woke left, views everybody on our side that's not necessarily on the right, but they view us all as right-wing extremists? We're all Hitler, we're all Nazis, and they really think that, they really feel that that's an existential threat to their existence. And they're wrong, right? They're wrong, because we would just leave them alone if they left us alone. We really would. You know what I mean? They're wrong, but we need to start viewing them like they view us, because we're right. They are an existential threat, and they've proven it over and over again. They've tried to shut us down over and over and over again. They've lied about us. They've defamed us. They've killed our people. And so now it's time for us to do what has to be done to get rid of this ideology. And if we're going to leave it up to the government, we're going to have to give them some leeway, people. That's all I'm saying. All right. I think that's enough preaching for today. Hopefully I made myself clear enough and there's no doubt as to what I mean here. I probably will be doing a couple more videos kind of like this, explaining this over and over. I think it's super important. So, all right, guys, take it easy. Have a great one. We'll see you on the next time.